First, I would like to note that a lot has been shared, a lot has been said publicly, stories, memories, thoughts and prayers, and in articles, in texts, and in emails, and in letters. And on behalf of our family, I want to say thank you. Each makes a difference. We say them all, and we appreciate the kind words, the kind thoughts, and prayers. A couple years ago, my father fell when he was in Washington. Heath Garrett and I, my mom was there to help my dad, and Heath Garrett and I flew to assist my dad in getting back home. As that time, I think, started to realize, okay, the change is coming. I can't stay here in Washington forever. It's that time I, too, started to see that change perhaps was coming. And on that very plane flight, I just started to jot down notes, stories, things that would come to mind, things that I would remember. Over the past few years in particular, I'd make certain to note stories my dad would share with me. He was a bit nostalgic, and he would remember a lot, and he'd want to make certain that I did too, and I'd jot it down. And ultimately, I believed all that would be the culmination of, or with a combination of all that would be what I would sit and share today, but by gosh, it got to be pages. It got to be pages, and I had trouble breaking it all down succinctly into a story or two or three that would share what my father meant to me and all that he provided me and provided my family. And I remembered a trick he had. I actually saw this for the first time when he gave his acceptance speech when he was first elected to Congress. And he had probably given a 15 or 20-minute speech, and the family had joined him up at the dais. And we were around the podium, and on the podium was a note card just like this. It had his name on the top, as mine does. It said Johnny Isakson, and it was a plus sign. And in each corner, there were there was a word, ultimately 4 words upon which he spoke. And I said, well, I got to take another trick out of my dad's playbook, and I tell you, in my lifetime, I've taken a lot. I'm going to take a lot more as future, but I took a trick out of my dad's playbook and sat there and looked at what I wrote, and I said, what does all this mean? And in the first corner, I wrote thanks. I wanted to be sure to offer thanks on behalf of our family to all those who have shared so much to us. In the other corner, I put the word time. When I looked at all those stories, when I looked at all those shared experiences, all the times we laughed, all the times we cried, all the times I listened to him, and all the things I learned, I realized he had given me such a great gift. Every moment he had, he gave me his time. I could not have asked for anything more. I also looked at those words and I remembered my dad, and most any time that I saw him, he would tell me how proud he was of me. There may have been a specific event or an act that was deserving. A lot of times there weren't, or there wasn't. But he wanted to know, and I know, how proud he was. The other word, the final word, is love. I never ended a phone call with my father. We never parted company where he didn't say, son, I love you. My father gave me a great deal of his time every minute he could. I know my father is very proud of me, and I'm very proud of him. And I know how much he loved me, and I loved him. I love him. As I've shared these stories with my family over the past few weeks, I'm fortunate. I just lived a mile, if that, from where my dad lived. And my kids started to jump in. It wasn't Dad, it was Pops. Pops to the grandkids, really became Pops to all of us, but it was Pops. And my kids started to share, you know what, Dad? Pops was just the same to us. Every Friday when he got home from Washington, sure enough, he'd stop by the house, and whoever was there, he was going to check in on them. How they doing? How's your week? My dad would exercise, particularly as the Parkinson weighed in, and he would walk up to my house. It was about a mile. It was uphill, and he'd get up, and I was at the top of the hill. Sure enough, he'd come in and take a break. He'd sit down, and he'd have a cup of water, and whoever was there, he was going to check in and find out what's going on. I found my dad. I was very fortunate for my kids, for my family. My dad, much the same as he always gave me, was able to give my family, my wife, my 3 children, his time. And they shared with me, just like every time he left my company, he left theirs. He said, I'm proud of all y'all, and I love you. I'm very fortunate for that. I'm very fortunate for the time I had, for the time my family had with my father. It's those thoughts, it's those memories that carry me today and will carry us forward. My dad is a great father. He will always be a great father, and it's in these memories that I'll cherish for a lifetime. Thank you.